It was when the Monica Lewinsky scandal blew up.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a Monica Lewinsky lookalike contest. And the show had just basically started.
Mm-hmm.
And we were at Rio Bravo, which was this, it's no longer there. It was on West End in Nashville. You couldn't get anywhere near the place. There were so many people.
Yeah.
And when I saw that many people, I thought, my gosh, I've never had this happen in radio.
From the business capital of the world, the Big Apple, New York City, Middle Tennessee, it says here.
Right.
Sounds riveting.
It is.
This is the Mostly Middle Tennessee Business Podcast, a podcast about Middle Tennessee business owners and professionals.
Yeah, mostly.
Mostly.
That's right. Thank you, Mr. Matt Wilson, for the big voice. Friend of mine from the old radio days. Check out his podcast, the Mostly Marketing Podcast, with Matt Wilson. He puts out an episode like once, whenever he feels like it, kind of schedule. But what he does, it's worth the listen. Mostly Marketing with Matt Wilson. And this is the Mostly Middle Tennessee Business Podcast, where I talk to Middle Tennessee business owners, professionals, entrepreneurs, and we have real conversations that meander. We go in and out. We have rabbit holes, tangents, and occasionally we get back to, talking about business, successes, failures, challenges, all that good stuff. I am Jim McCarthy with JimMcCarthyVoiceovers.com and It'sYourShow.co, where we make podcasts, quality podcasts like this one, hopefully. Check us out at It'sYourShow.co. And today, by the way, this is a video and audio podcast. You can check us out at MMTBP.com. Pick your poison there. You can watch us there as well. If you're watching, you can listen to us there and get tired of looking at my mug. There you go, MMTBP.com. And today, it's for my radio folk, or people that are interested in radio, not necessarily as a career these days, because that's what we're going to be talking about as far as where it's going, and those who are still in radio kind of wondering what's next. This gentleman I have on today, I've had the pleasure of knowing for the past couple of years, not like intimately. We've never really worked together.
No.
But we know of each other.
Yes, we do.
I've worked with your, I guess, former boss. Was he a boss, Mr. Phil?
Nah, more
Partner?
of a co-worker.
Co-worker. I did a lot more work with him, with
Yes.
Phil Valentine. God rest his soul.
You bet. Good man.
Johnny, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing all right. How are you doing,
Mr.
Jim?
Johnny Bozeman.
Yeah.
Johnny B, as they used to say.
Yes.
I know the Uncle Phil radio hour.
Yeah, he's the one that named me that.
Did he?
Yes.
It's
I didn't
kinda-
like it at first.
Now you kind of embrace it now?
Yeah, I finally got over it. Because at first I thought I never liked Johnny because it sounds like a 5-year-old kid. And when he first named me that, I thought, no, man, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
But then I kind of embraced it after a while, especially the way, people will go, hey, Johnny B.
Right.
It's kind of like Johnny Cash.
Yeah. Now, how did you get started in the business?
I actually got started through my father. He owned country radio stations. In fact, he broke ground on the very first country station he owned, which was KSIR in Wichita, Kansas. And it was on July 4th. And the day he broke ground was the day my mother's water broke and I was born.
Oh, wow.
Right, that was happening.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I've been in it
Since
my whole
birth.
life. Yeah, since birth.
So you came up in it. I guess you kind of followed in your dad's footsteps. Did you back in those times? That was like the fun era.
It was fun. Radio was a lot of fun then, and there was a lot more freedom to it. You could be creative. And some of it wasn't good.
Right.
I understand why they kind of moved away from that, because some people didn't know how to be creative.
Rules of radio.
Yes. Yeah. So I understood that. But yeah, and it was fun watching his group of guys because they were also musicians. He had musicians that traveled the area, which was Kansas and Missouri, Nebraska, Oklahoma, because they didn't, in those days, get a lot of entertainment that came through. So he would get one country star, like a superstar, and then have the rest of his, employees who also picked and sang.
Yeah.
So they did that on top of being radio people. So it was an interesting way to grow up and It really gave me, I thought, this is what I want to do. These guys are having fun.
Yeah. It's definitely a business of passion.
Yes, it is.
And they pay accordingly to that. That's what I had found out. You know, my story going into it was I tried it out in college, and I knew it was a lot of fun, and I enjoyed it, but I wanted to make a decent living, and I figured I'd try other things. But eventually I got back to the point. I went to the esteemed Connecticut School of Broadcasting in Farmington, Connecticut, and I was like, well, hey, you know, maybe it doesn't need to be radio. I'll try TV. So I kind of got on the waiting list to be interviewed at ESPN, which is in Bristol at the time. I think they still are.
Mm-hmm.
And in the meantime, while I was waiting, I worked for the radio station that I swore I'd never work for. And they're the ones that gave me my shot. So,
Very
and
cool.
I just stuck around, and I just kept on going with it. Eventually landed here in Nashville in 2005, right after they flipped the oldies station to Jack FM.
That's right.
Yep.
I remember that.
I worked for Mix 92.9 until I left the business in 2013. But it was, you know, the last organization I worked for, they were a tremendous, nice family-owned company, had that familial feel that I had from the first radio station where I worked.
Mm-hmm.
I worked for corporate in Vegas for CBS and stuff like that. But it was kind of a nice full circle. And, you know, it was just time. I was like, I got to make some more money.
Oh,
you know?
yes. We all get to that. It's like I've tried to tell people that get into radio, young guys,
Yeah.
get ready because it's a feast or famine business.
It's like every business. Though.
It is.
really
every
is.
business is
Yeah.
like that.
Any business that you're in, that's what I've found since being outside is that the biggest risk you take is having one income stream. You know, no matter what it is. If you're
Exactly.
W-2 somewhere, you're at risk. You know, especially even these days, there's no loyalty.
No, there's not. No, there's not.
But radio is known for, you know, hey, I'm going to leave my air shift, and hey, why don't you come to the office and bring your headphones? Those are dreaded words.
Yes, those are dreaded words.
Right. And your replacement just kind of happens to slip in as you're coming out of the air studio.
Yeah, but that's the business.
Yeah.
That's the business. That's the nature of the business. You have to, any entertainment business you're in, whether it's music, acting,
Yeah.
radio, TV.
Passion-driven business.
Yes, you either have to love it, and you have to understand that there's going to be a day when the rug's going to be pulled out from under you.
It's kind of like the NFL in a way. You know you're doing well if you have an agent that knows the business side and the selling side that does it
Yes.
for you.
Yes.
So once you get to those markets and you're agent worthy, then you're more protected because there's contracts in place that are more favorable to you rather than the actual establishment. So until then, you know, tread
Yes.
carefully.
Yes. Very true.
So getting into it with like being in like your first job in radio was with your dad as well?
Yes, it was. And he wasn't, don't take it that this guy, it's my son, so we're going to put him into prime time.
Right.
No, my first shift was 9 at night
Mhm.
till 6 in the morning,
Mm.
playing country music.
Wow.
And on top of that, I had to get the farm reports, the news reports ready for the newsman in the morning. And so there was a lot of duties with it.
Oh, yeah.
And I stuck with that for a long time until he said he was going to move his operations to Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to go because I was really into the music of Waylon Jennings, Gary Stewart, and David Allan Coe. And I thought, that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
I want to go there.
Mm-hmm.
So I came to Nashville, and once again, he stuck me midnight to 6 for a while
Yeah.
until they hired a program director, Don Keith. He said, this guy's pretty good. You need to move him up.
When was this?
Gosh, this was around 80s, early 80s.
Early 80s?
Yeah, and then I moved to Birmingham, Alabama,
Okay.
and worked at K99 there, which was a rock station to begin with, and it turned into a country station, and that was my first rating success.
Mm.
I had the #1 midday show.
There you go.
Yeah, so
So you were always on the air?
yes.
Yeah. That was one thing I discovered that I worked for. It was a classic rock station. Today's rock, classic rock, I-95 rock. Mr. Doug Paul, he was the voice guy. They put me on same kind of story, 6 p.m. to midnight.
Yes.
But the 10 and 12, I got in right when they started going digital on the hard drives,
Mhm.
and everything was voice tracked. So I did live 6 to 10. But it wasn't like I didn't have to pull anything, no carts, no music, no nothing. So I missed all of that.
Oh, wow.
But I recalled on another, I think it was with Paul Ladd on the a couple of episodes ago.
Friend we both know.
Yeah. The time that the whole system went down.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
That's always a good feeling, isn't it?
Oh, for me it was. Because that was fun.
Oh, yeah, that makes it more fun.
I got a taste of how it used to be.
Yeah.
And we had to do live shifts and actually pull your music. And I'm like, yeah. I would totally be on the air if this was, I loved it.
It was. See, that's what was so fun about it, especially in Birmingham. I got this record in, and it was from the songwriter Bobby Braddock. He had put out an album, or an EP, I think.
Yeah.
And he had this great song on there called Ernest Angley, Help Me Get Over You.
Mm-hmm.
A hilarious song. But I could understand that it would upset some in the on the Christian right.
Right.
Or the people that loved Ernest Angley, because it's basically making fun of him.
Right.
But I played this song, and it lit up the request lines all night long. Either people hated it, loved it.
You gotta love those lightning rods.
I do too.
Yeah.
I do too.
So
That's why I love political talk radio.
Well, I thought I was going to ask you, how long were you in music?
I was in music, for probably half of my radio career.
Okay.
It was Phil Valentine that got me into
Uncle Phil.
Uncle Phil got me into talk radio, and I was originally going to say no because he had gone to Philadelphia and he'd come back, and he said he wanted me to produce his show, and I had no interest in producing.
Yeah,
too much of a ham for that.
Right,
and
and you still are.
Thank you.
Yeah,
ask my wife. But no, and Phil wanted me, so I went in, and that was the first time too that when I was talking to the program director, I thought, I'm not looking for a job here. They're asking me to be here.
Yeah.
So I'm in a different position than I've ever been in.
Right.
So I began to play hardball.
Yeah.
They go, well, we want you to do 2 shows. And I said, no, I'll do 1 show, Phil's show, and that's going to be it.
Mm-hmm.
I want my focus to be on that.
Yeah.
Well, you can't do that. And I said, well, then I guess we have nothing more to talk about. And
it's like, why can't you do that?
Started getting up, and they go, wait, we'll work.
It's like buying a car.
Oh, it was. It was like buying a car. The only thing they would not budge on was, of course, the salary.
Yeah, I think I have a solution for that. And I think it's fair to both sides. I talked about, probably about a year ago, there was an episode I put out with Anna Marie Ritter, and her husband. She came in, and she and I worked for a number of years at Mix 92.9. I've always had this idea, especially being out of the business, getting into sales. I was in car sales for a season. It helps you understand. I think if I had to go back into radio, I'd be a lot more sympathetic to the sales department.
Yes.
Because I would actually negotiate if I had to do like a morning show, and that's the only way I would actually, or an afternoon show, talk show, that kind of a thing.
Right.
If I ever got back into the medium. Because I mean, this is podcasting is talk radio.
It is.
I would actually approach it by saying, listen, give me 1 spot set. That's going to be my pay. Whatever gross revenue comes off that spot set. Because now I have skin in the game.
Yes.
Now I want to work with the sales department, not only to make the show better, but also to raise the revenue and the rate of the spot, the ad rate.
Right.
Because I mean, the more revenue, obviously, then hey, the more I get paid.
Exactly.
And you have certain different mile markers that for bonuses and stuff like that. I don't know why they never did that. I don't give a crap about ratings. Let's see if we can go out and get a good audience, an engaged community audience, which talk radio is very not easy to do, but I think it's easier than music. But when it's personality,
more creative,
personality driven radio like talk radio, just do it that way. Give me 1 spot set. I want the biggest spot set on there. Those are my terms, and you start from there, and then you come down.
I like your plan.
Yeah. I think it's a good plan.
You're smart.
I tried to be.
That's the difference between you and me.
I wasn't. I don't think I still am.
I'm not.
You're out of the business now, so that's 1 step in the right direction. But I mean, it's one of those things that, getting into talk radio, because it is a very expensive format to run. The most expensive. you get in there. Did he come? Well, Phil started in North Carolina in talk radio. Is that true?
No, he actually started in music radio.
Yeah,
in
he was
North
a
Carolina.
rocker.
Yeah, beach music.
Yep.
And also a beach music singer, by the way.
I could see that.
And then when he moved to Nashville, he worked at 92Q. So he didn't get into talk radio until I think it was Rush Limbaugh that really
90s.
Yeah, Limbaugh impressed Phil so much, and Phil, like myself, said, "I want to do that. That's what I want to do. That's what I was meant to do."
Yeah,
and he was right.
Yeah, because he got syndicated at some point, and
he did.
Yeah.
And
you were with him since the beginning of all this.
Yeah, I was with him when the show started in Nashville in '98.
Wow,
when he came back from Philadelphia.
So that's when you negotiated your way in. That was your foray into talk radio.
Yes, and I really didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, I liked listening to talk. I liked Rush Limbaugh. I didn't agree with everything he said, but I liked his mind. I liked to hear the brain working. Yeah. I loved everything he did because when you look at his show, especially at the time he was promoting it, I don't see how he even sold anybody on it.
Right.
Because here's this guy. He wasn't really impressive when you met him. He was kind of a shy guy from what I understand. But they sold the show. It was just him. You're going to have any guests? No, it's just me and my beliefs and my caller.
And he did 4 hours a day.
4 hours a day and would entertain you.
Gosh.
I mean, the guy, I don't care if you disagreed with him vehemently. You cannot take away from the fact the guy was a great broadcaster.
He was a great broadcaster, and I mean, even Howard didn't have that. He had Robin to bounce off of. No. You know?
No, there's never been anybody like Rush, and Rush changed talk radio for the better. Yeah. Because if you remember, talk radio used to be pretty boring.
It was mostly news.
Yeah, that's all it was, or people talking real monotone.
NPR.
Yeah.
Sweaty balls.
Yeah,
remember that skit?
Yeah.
Saturday Night Live? Yeah.
Does your garage door sound like this? If it does, it's screaming for help. Call Incredible Doors, 931-348-DOOR. We're making garage doors in Murray and Williamson counties work better, sound better, and, well, spring better. We just make them incredible again. Incredible Doors in Spring Hill. When your door's springs break, you need remote reconnections, opener installation, or just about anything to do with your garage door, go to IncredibleDoors.com or call 931-348-DOOR. Follow us on Facebook for specials on maintenance visits, keypads, and other items. 931-348-DOOR.
So you have these. I never really got into Rush until I worked in Vegas because I did work for a talk station, 2 of them out there, and that was my foray into the format, coming from music but applying a music sensibility to the imaging and the production to a talk radio station, and that's what was my job. And man, what an experience! I really loved the format. It was so exciting. We were, 9/11 happened the first 3 months I was there.
Oh yeah.
Oh, what a day.
Oh, that was awful.
Yeah. Just, I think I was there probably 20 hours that day. But, moving forward where you had these kinds of things kind of unfolding, when did you realize you kind of had a love for talk?
Pretty instantaneous. In fact, what really sold me, it was when the Monica Lewinsky scandal blew up. And we had a Monica Lewinsky lookalike contest. And the show had just basically started. And we were at Rio Bravo, which was this, it's no longer there. It was on West End in Nashville. You couldn't get anywhere near the place. There were so many people.
Yeah.
And when I saw that many people, I thought, my gosh, I've never had this happen in radio.
Because everyone's they're dialed into the controversy because they were probably not big Clinton fans, I would think.
I think that's part of it. And I think another part of it was, I think there were people that even disagreed with Phil that just liked the show because we were fun.
Yeah.
We played rock and roll bumper music. And that's another thing I have to hand to Phil because he gave me the freedom there.
Right.
He said, I will not tell you what to play. You play whatever you want.
Yeah.
And that's what we did. And it was a fun show. And I think people also liked our friendship. They could tell we liked one another.
Yeah.
That we were like two ornery boys, that never grew up.
Now, when did you meet him initially?
I met him actually I went to work for WLAC FM when Phil was doing music radio with Terry Hopkins.
Mm-hmm.
And this was in 93. And I remember meeting Phil for the first time because he drove a red Miata. And they were showing me around the station. All of a sudden, this red Miata pulls up. The guy gets out of the car and sticks his hand out. Phil Valentine.
What a big voice.
Yeah, Phil Valentine.
Phil Valentine.
Yeah. And that's when I first met him.
Yeah. So he does make a good impression.
Yeah, he does.
I mean, you'd kind of anticipate, you formulate your impressions. I had never met him up until I got out of radio and I started dabbling with podcasting. He and his son started doing the Pod Goats, Campbell.
Yes.
And they asked me to do the intro. So I did the voiceover for the intro. They produced it. And he was he's come on my podcast a number of times. He's been on other podcasts that I produce. But I had never met him up until that point. I always had you always think of these guys of having their ego, preceding who they really are.
Right.
And you make these kind of assessments, based on opinion and, in my case, very little factual evidence. He, I think the first iteration I had with him, we wanted to do something between Moose at Jack FM and Phil, because I think it was based off of a Super Bowl commercial. I kind of had this idea to do a video where they were both competitors, but just kind of cool with each other. And I think that was about the extent of the idea. And we at the time, Jack FM, we were doing a lot of video for YouTube. So I think we were one of the first stations that embraced that format and ran with it. And he got back to us. He got back to me directly, and he says, I'll run it up the flagpole. I can't promise anything, but, sounds like a fun idea that I'd really be into. But, let me see what they say here and what my bosses will do. And it ended up that they wouldn't let him do that, but he was open to it.
Yeah.
And that really, I'm like, okay, well, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, he was a cool guy. And the great thing I loved about him, too, anybody that ever worked at the station noticed that I don't care who you were, if you were the janitor, he treated you equally.
He did.
He treated everybody equally, even people that disagreed with him politically at the station loved him.
Yes.
Now, people that listened to the show didn't, but
You
those that truly knew him.
The people he made to feel
uncomfortable. Oh, that's fun. Thank you. I love doing that again.
Glad I could provide that for you. But he is, you're absolutely right. And he had every reason to be egotistical. Every single one. But
he wasn't.
He wasn't.
He was not at all. Not saying he wasn't sure of himself.
Yeah, he was confident.
He was very confident, but it didn't.
He wasn't pompous.
Not at all. Not at all. I've seen some really pompous.
As have I. Tom Likas. Sorry.
And in fact, you worked. I think you worked with one of the guys that got me on at WLAC FM.
Really,
Brian Sargent.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Yeah, Brian Sargent. I owe a lot to.
Yeah,
Brian Sargent and a guy named J.J. Austin.
J.J. Austin.
Yeah, he was a part-timer that worked there.
Now it's funny. One of the guys who took over for the program director, I was hired by one guy, and he ended up going to Dallas to another talk station out there. And the guy who came in to replace him was named Jack Landreth. I don't know if that
Jack.
Do you know Jack?
I don't know him. I know of him.
Yeah. I guess he programmed or worked for maybe WLAC, or it was 650.
Yeah.
WSM.
Yeah.
And he remembers when Dave Ramsey was paying for his airtime.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that?
I do remember that.
Yeah, I remember he would advertise in the trades.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, where life happens, caller after caller.
Well, I remember the first time I heard Dave Ramsey, my father. My father listening to Dave Ramsey. Dave, don't blame me. It was Dad. We're listening to him. It's the first time we've ever heard him. And Dad goes, my gosh, this guy's awful. He's never going to make it.
It's back in the 90s?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Back when he was getting started.
It's so funny that people don't realize he actually bought airtime. There was brokered time they used to sell. I'm sure they still sell it.
Yeah, they do.
But I don't know if he bought like during the week or on the weekends. He did a similar show that he does now, but mostly about money, finance, and wealth management, stuff like that.
Right. And he's helped a lot of people out.
Yeah. He, like I said, I remember we had Talkers Magazine that would come and he would advertise in that for the syndication.
Yes.
So Dave Ramsey Show, 6-word phrases where life happens, caller after caller.
That's right.
I remember that. Crazy.
And if you ever want to know a Ramsey fan.
Oh yeah.
If you walk up to them and say, "How you doing?" Better than I deserve.
That's right. Yeah, he's got. I think he's going to make it.
I think so. I think he's got a future. I disagree with Dad.
So walk me through. I mean, I wasn't privy to, when Phil succumbed. Let's talk a little bit about that time. I mean, walk me through that. I mean, he got, I believe he got COVID.
Yeah.
And then he had complications from it, correct?
That's correct. It was very odd because I'd just come back from vacation and they told me that they caught COVID, and I was kind of, oh no. I thought he'd be all right.
Me too.
Because, he was a healthy guy.
Very.
Now, he did have underlying conditions. He did have AFib, which he never took seriously. Or I never got that impression. And he also was a part-time smoker.
Okay.
A lot of people didn't know that. But anyway, he was out and he texted me. And I texted him back and I said, dude, get back as soon as you can. I can't quit you.
Yeah. Broke back.
And he sent back a, laugh out loud. He said, "You're making me feel better where I think I can do it."
Yeah.
And he did come back on, but the last day he was on, he sounded awful. Right. I mean, in the breaks, I could tell that. He was constantly coughing. He had and he said, asked me what pneumonia felt like because I've had it.
Yeah.
And I said, it's the worst pain you'll ever feel in your lungs. I mean, you'll know when you have it. He said, I think I have it.
Yeah.
And it was the following day. It was Saturday. And we were going into a concert with Chris Golden, William Lee Golden's son. And I got a text from Phil and he goes, "I'm in the hospital." And man, my heart, I knew this is not going to be good.
Because at that point they were doing like the intubation and.
Well, they hadn't started that yet, but I understand like when he got there, he was not in good shape. He was, from what I understand, he was really starting to just go downhill.
Yeah.
And that was probably the worst month of my life in 2021. Because I didn't know what was going to happen.
It was such a shock. I was actually, I had found out getting ready for work. I think I was working out. I just finished. And, the news came across and it was like, oh my gosh, it really did hit you in the face. It's like, I literally just talked to this guy a few months ago.
Oh, I know.
And for you, it's even closer.
Well, what was sad too is we didn't get to work together that last year. He was at home because of COVID.
Right.
So we didn't see each other.
And you were working from the station?
Yeah.
Right.
So I hated that. And then the night before he passed, I went by the hospital and I knew I couldn't go up. So I just sat on a bench outside the hospital and prayed. And it was very odd because I got this great feeling. Hey, everything's going to be okay. It was odd.
Yeah.
And so I even went home and told my wife, I said, I think he's going to be all right.
Yeah.
I really do. And then when I got the call the next day, I thought, why did I get that feeling?
Yeah.
And a listener actually had a great way of looking at it. She said, it wasn't that God was trying to tell you that he was going to make it. He's just trying to tell you that everything was going to be all right.
Right. That was my impression when you just said that just now. Yeah. Because everything it generally does work out to be all right. Things are supposed to happen as they happen. Right.
And as heartbreaking as it was, one thing I do feel good about, Phil's spiritual bags are packed. Yeah. I've never met a nicer. In fact, he was a great example of if you want to lead a Christian life, because he didn't lead with it, but he lived it.
Yeah.
And he was so good to people, and I wanted to be more like him.
I'm going to dare say that he was even probably like a pinnacle of culture in the building, at least in the radio station, because you had, again, you had like a really strong lineup coming from Vegas, working in that format. We really only had one mainstream local show. That was our morning show. After that, I believe it was Dr. Laura, then it went to Rush, and then we had Sean Hannity on the afternoons. After that was Clark Howard, I believe. So a lot of syndicated stuff.
Right.
And now for the talk radio stations, that's what I experienced working with. Not a full-time air staff that was local and knew the city and stuff like that and local issues. I would admit, because at that point you had, at points upon a time you had Ralph Bristol, who was just a rock solid guy.
Yeah.
Del Giorno, and then Phil, and the people that would fill in.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of, I guess, I want to say, did it disintegrate after he passed? Did it feel like things were falling away? Because it seemed to me like that's what happened.
It may have seemed that way to people on the
outside,
but actually we were all trying to pull together.
Yeah.
And in fact, it really made me love my brothers and sisters more at the station, because we all kind of banded together and wanted to keep it going.
Yeah.
And to be frank, when he first passed away, my first thought was, I'm gone. I mean,
yeah,
I don't see how I could ever find anyone to have that magic with again. Because you don't just, it's not something you can create. You have to have that. You have to. The
camaraderie.
Yes.
Yeah, almost like a partnership.
Yes.
And it's lightning in a bottle.
Well, and you know what the other one's thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And that got to that point. We could read each other's minds pretty well.
That's crazy.
But I didn't think I'd ever find that again. And Dan Mandis came to me and he said, I'm moving to mornings.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved working with Dan because Dan's a nice guy. And no ego there at all.
Mm-hmm.
And then Ken Weaver, the newsman, I loved because I thought he was hilarious. Plus, he's great newsman. And so I said, man, if I could, I'd like to be part of that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we could make that work.
Yeah.
And my gosh, if we did, man, it was fun. I had so much fun with those guys.
Yeah.
And I looked at that as a gift.
Yeah. I would imagine the same thing.
Because I didn't think that would ever happen again. And it did. And then Ken left, moved to afternoons. And I was upset again until we got this great Joan Jones, who came from Washington, D.C. Great news person, great radio talent.
Mm-hmm.
It's like we never missed a beat. It was just same thing. We all knew how to gel together.
Mm-hmm.
The show was sounding great.
It's like as radio has evolved, or dare I say devolved, the ego has to go out the door, and you rely on each other to remind yourselves of the passion and the fun. Because I mean, even I've been out of the business over a decade now. It still pains me and it upsets me when you hear about mass layoffs and the talent brain drain that has happened. And it's like, it just tells me that I have a passion attached to the business.
Right.
And we'll get into this in a little bit, but I mean, that's one thing I tell people whenever I hear about those mass layoffs by these, dim-witted companies. Guys, just because the industry doesn't value you does not mean you're valueless.
Good point.
Okay? There's a whole new industry out there that needs your help. And I can't do it all myself. There are a lot of people that want to play radio in the form of podcasts, and they just need help.
Yes.
And we're the ones that can do that. And you just have to embrace that mindset of going from a W-2 mentality to a W-9.
Yes.
And be self-employed. And you won't believe what's on the other side of that threshold. Because I lived it, Going from being told where to be, how much I can make, when I could take a vacation to, it's not like there's always pros and cons to everything.
Oh, yes.
But you have more control. I have more control of my time now. But you still got to make stuff happen.
Right.
And I think a business sensibility and sales sensibility comes into play when you have to go and make your own way. You still have to get in front of people. You got to network. You got to learn how to sell. You got to know all the things.
Right.
which unfortunately a lot of people in the creative mediums don't pursue. They don't hone those talents. Now, I don't know if that was a trade-off for me, because I think at my stage in life, I'm not as creative as I used to be, but I still have a passion for doing this. This is replicatable. This is fun.
Yes, it is.
Doing this. You know what I mean?
And you
Talking
do a great
to people
job
like
at
you.
it.
Well, thank you. I mean, I'm not as seasoned as most talk radio people by any stretch of the imagination, but man, I've at least got a background on it.
Yes, you
know?
do.
And you just try and have fun with it. But speaking of fun, what's the first thing that comes to mind as far as the most fun moment you've ever had with Phil or anybody on the radio? What comes to mind?
Gosh, anytime Phil and I did anything that was hilarious, and most of it was spontaneous. We never planned anything.
Yeah.
Everything was spur of the moment. But I think the one that probably meant more to the audience than anything was the dancing in the booth. That everywhere I go, it doesn't matter. Number one, this is the first thing they'll go, man, I miss Phil, and they'll hug me, and some will cry.
Mm-hmm.
And then they'll go, Johnny, who's dancing in the booth? That's what they always do. So that to me was...
How did that come about?
Well, Phil had actually done it when he first started talk radio at WTN before he had left WLAC-FM. And he had his producers dancing in the booth.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he wanted to do that again when he came back here in 98. And I told him, I said, that just sounds boring to me to have me dancing or you.
Yeah.
I said, let's have local celebrities, anybody that's in the news that we can make fun of.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what we started doing. And I think it worked out better that way. People were laughing and getting a kick out of it.
Mm-hmm. Now, explain the bit for those of the audience that don't know. What was the whole gist of it?
Well, it was Friday, and we start out the show every hour.
Mm-hmm.
Phil would go, and it's Friday. And then it would come up, thank God it's Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And, Phil would do his normal shtick.
Which is like an old classic rock and roll station thing to do, the Friday songs, all that stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Johnny B, who's dancing in the booth. Then, hey, look out, it's Adam Dredd. Or Mayor Bredesen.
Right.
And we'd come up with some crazy thing they'd be doing. Probably the funniest was Stormy Daniels. We had a lot of fun with that one.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
What's the story behind that?
Well, I'd forgotten all about it, but somebody put it up on YouTube recently, and I saw it. And I thought, ooh, we kind of started almost walking over that line we shouldn't have. Because Phil goes, oh, it looks like she's done this before. And he goes, do I make you horny? And I said, well, he meant car horn.
Right.
For those of you with kids in the car.
Right. You had to keep it somewhat family friendly.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
But we always kind of walked the line a little bit.
Were there any other guys? I mean, did you guys draw inspiration from, of course, aside from Rush, what other guys kind of did you draw inspiration from? I mean, a lot of people, especially in voiceover, I tell them, find who you want to emulate and then start, like, I guess, dare I say, doing impersonations of them.
Yes.
A lot of what I do, especially with the video aspect of the podcast, is based on a lot of what Howard used to do back in the day, back when he was good.
Yes.
He was this very stream of consciousness, ask very curious questions, typically asking the questions you were probably thinking but afraid to ask.
Yes.
Who did you draw inspiration from? Who did Phil draw inspiration from?
I think Phil drew a lot of inspiration from all kinds of people. In fact, he would imitate them during breaks at times. Mm-hmm. Larry Lujak or Grease Man. We both love the Grease Man.
What a doodle.
But mine was probably
okay, for those of you who don't know, I don't know if he was syndicated, was he?
I don't know.
But he was in Washington.
Yes.
And he was like a boss jock of like a last of a dying breed of boss jocks back in the 80s. I mean, he talked like this.
Go greasy.
Grease man. What a doodle.
Yeah.
And, he became kind of like cannon fodder for later shows that came after him. Opie and Anthony, I mean, especially Anthony, used to a great impression of him. He was hilarious with that impression. My gosh. But man, they were just relentlessly making fun of the guy. But
He was hilarious.
he was very good.
He was good.
Mm-hmm.
Mine was probably my two biggest were actually Don Imus was one.
That's right.
Don Imus.
Gosh.
I loved Imus.
Yeah.
And then once I got to Nashville, I really did like Carl P. Mayfield.
Did you listen to Imus back when he was on, or did you watch him on MSNBC?
I listened to air checks because I couldn't get his show wherever I was at.
Because he was on 660 The Fan out of New York.
And I would listen to, and I started really liking it. And plus, when I was going to broadcast school, one of the instructors there was a huge Imus fan.
Yeah.
So he would play a lot of Imus. And I thought, man, I love this guy. He's hilarious.
Yep.
So he was one. Then Carl P. Mayfield out of here from KDF during his rock and roll days. Man, I thought, this guy is great talent.
Yeah.
And I loved Carl's voice.
You know who I wish I worked with was Coyote.
Oh, me too.
You know?
I did get to work with him in the building.
Mm-hmm. That's right. He went over to you guys.
Yeah. And the cool thing about him, another guy didn't seem to have ego problem.
Right.
I thought he would. Because I remember going to one of these Nashville awards, these radio awards, and I was walking up, and some of my encounters with radio, people that are
their egos.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they are not nice people.
Yeah.
So I thought, oh crap, it's Coyote. I bet he's going to be mean. And I get up there and, Johnny B. He said, man, I love what you're doing. He said, I love listening to you. He was just as nice as could be and told him the same. And I loved Coyote.
It's typically the guys, they had a killer instinct as far as ego goes.
Yes.
The nicer you were, the less successful you were likely to be.
Yeah, that's very true.
And again, even like I met Howard once in passing, but I've always heard stories about him being very bashful. The mic would go off, and he was very introverted, I guess.
There's a lot of people like that.
They are, because it's a bit, it's an act,
right?
Which is interesting today because so many people that have podcasts. Authenticity is such a big part of that because people's BS meters are so finely attuned. You have to be who you are. Like, this is how I act. I'm not putting on airs. I mean, I may put on the voice a little bit in the intro and stuff, and doing that kind of a thing. But you have personality wise in this day and age, you just got to be you.
Yes.
Well,
that's the great thing I thought that Howard Stern's movie really drove home to anybody that was in radio or thinking of getting into radio, was that was the main theme of that movie to me. Be yourself.
Yeah.
You've got to be yourself. If you're not, the audience will pick up on it and never trust you.
But there is an art. Actually, when I went back and did a clip of when I talked about how radio used to be, and I talked about that experience where everything went down, I found just for reference points and B-roll, how radio was done back in the 70s and 80s. And there's a website out there called California Air Check.
Yes.
And it's got like JoJo McCade and all these different guys from the 80s and even the 90s and the millennium. But back when you had to you were an octopus.
Yes.
Pulling things. And these guys are doing breaks. They're hitting the post. It was a true art form.
It
really was.
It was. And you had to have a great voice, too, in those days.
Great voice. And a performer and be a ham.
Yes. You had to be.
Yeah.
And I think really radio is dying for that again. I think the 500 in a row with 2 interruptions.
Right. The Indianapolis 500 weekend.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, I think that's what's hurting music radio right now is that people can
stream.
Yeah, they can stream. Yeah. They don't have to listen to a song they don't want to.
Right.
They can make their own radio station.
Exactly.
I think if I were running a music station, I think I'd put some personality back into it.
I was going to ask you, Johnny, what's the big fix, man? How do we fix all this? What's the solution?
Boy, that's the $1 million question, isn't it?
Because, fast forward to today, I reached out to you in the spirit of, concern. And even though we didn't know each other all that well, acquaintances at best,
right.
it's I guess that tie that I was talking about, that passionate tie back to radio of like that empathetic notion of like, oh man, you okay? Let's have you on. Let's see how we can help you.
Yeah.
Find your next thing because the axe came down.
Oh yeah, it did.
Point,
and it was, and it's quick, and it always is. And like I try to tell people, that's the business. That's the nature of the business. And it's what I tried to tell listeners that were angry about it.
Mm-hmm.
So don't get angry.
Yeah.
I said, number one, we need talk stations like WTN. We need to support them because they are giving us the truth.
See, you're much better than me in terms of outlook on that. I'd be like, all right, I'm not signing the non-compete or the NDA. You can keep your severance. I'm going to start a podcast and I'm going to start calling all of your clients. And I'm bringing them with me now because now I've got momentum. Thanks. And it's like, I did that, when I found out about Ralph, when I found out about Del Giorno, all these different guys, I'm like, I have Del Giorno's number, but I don't know if I still have the exact number. And I tried reaching out to him. I knew a couple other people that knew him and I worked through them. I'm like, just get him to call me. He needs to start a podcast. He's got momentum. He's got passionate listeners. He's got advertisers that will easily come over to him and pay a quarter of what they're paying. And it goes directly into his pocket. Well, relatively. And I'm like, dude, just have him call. And he never did. And it's like, dang it.
Wow.
And then he's still, I talked to him. I ran into him about 3 months ago. And I said, what happened? He's like, God just put me where he put me. Okay. I get it. And he's doing okay.
Oh, he is. I've since I've been off, I've been listening to his show as well. I think he does a great show.
He does an amazing show.
He does. And plus he's got producer I really like. So.
Yeah. So you don't have animosity towards
not at
your
all
radio station. They're just, carrying out orders from ill-advised people. I'll say it. What's new? Where are you going to go from here? What do you want to do?
That's another $1 million question because I'm trying to wave that through my mind. Mm-hmm. I think I'm done with radio, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think I'm burned out on it. I'm frankly burned out on politics.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are.
Yeah. I mean, I just don't know if I want to do that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And, so I really don't know, podcasting does interest me.
Mm-hmm.
And
because I'll say the same thing to you. You have the momentum. People like you. You have market equity, as they say. Just getting somebody with some business savvy to make some phone calls to clients and and advertisers.
Well, see,
and
start
poaching them.
That's what I need most because
let's poach them, Johnny.
Let's poach them.
Poach them.
But anyway, problem with me is I need someone. I guess I'm like an entertainer. You kind of have to guide them.
Yeah. And it's a reason why talent needed the agents because it can be a complicated process to learn how to negotiate.
Oh, definitely.
It's a talent. It's a skill set. And it's something I learned, quite frankly, in the car business. I was a decent salesperson. I always knew that.
Yeah.
I could always sell an idea and a concept. It was the closing that was tough.
Yes.
And
closing is the tough one.
Closing is a tough part. So when your back is against a wall and you have to put food on the table and move some metal to feed your family, you find a way to do it and start listening and humbling yourself. Because I did it at 37. Which, now is still, you look at 37, you're a kid, relatively middle-aged kid. And it helped me and I don't think it hindered me because I think I was very self-aware enough to understand, to listen to the managers. And I don't know, I am a fish out of water. I came from an industry where I was the man to I am really in an unfamiliar space here.
Mm-hmm.
Help.
Yes.
And, I knew enough about myself to learn word tracks certain ways. I was better at listening to stuff over and over again. So a good friend of mine, we're actually doing a podcast tomorrow here called the Ales and Tales Podcast, alesandtalespodcast.com, Mike Mercurio. He and I worked together at a Honda dealership downtown, and I was getting better at closing deals for cars, but getting what they call the second money, all the stuff they sell you before you go into the box, and financing.
Right.
It was our jobs as salespeople to at least tee the customer up for the finance guy so they can make the pitch and so on and so forth. And I was just, I just learned this. So I said, dude, here's my phone. Give me your spiel on how you present and pitch these things. And he did. And I would listen to that probably 50 times. And that's how I learned it.
That's how you got to learn it. That's how you do it.
People in their 20s they're probably not self-aware enough on how to absorb information. I knew that at 37. So I had kind of an advantage.
Yeah.
That was such an eye-opening business for me. Hugely eye-opening.
I bet it was.
Yeah.
Because I've always kind of I always wanted to be a car salesman at some point.
It's almost, because the thing is, dude, you're already selling. You're already selling on the radio.
Oh, yeah. If you're doing commercials, you're selling.
Commercials are just political radio. You're selling ideas.
Right.
You're selling the reason why people should listen to you.
Exactly.
Influence.
Exactly.
Yeah. So maybe that's something there. Maybe a PR firm.
Or maybe I could become a preacher. I don't know.
Yeah. You got to, you okay? You set up financially, hopefully, everything okay with that? Or
Oh, of course not.
I was in radio, Jim.
Wasn't like you, Jim. I wasn't smart.
I don't know if I was, I'm not going to say I was smart. I just remembered I was like, it came to a point, I was a singular income earner for the family. It was all on my shoulders. We were, I guess, again, last of a dying breed of where I was able to at least provide for my family on a single income.
Right.
We didn't leave for anything else, but I was, my wife, Courtney, was able to stay home with our kids, so on and so forth. So that doesn't happen much anymore.
No, it does not. But that's what's kind of bad right now is that my wife stays at home. Yeah. And so we were basically totally on my income.
Right.
So yeah, it's a little shaky, but God's always taking good care of me though. So I don't worry too much.
Mm-hmm.
And plus you can count on God to a point, mm-hmm. but then God also gives you tools to do it yourself, and you have to work together with God to make it happen.
You have little kind of revelations that have happened since then, or even since Phil's passing. Do you feel how to feel his presence from time to time at all?
It was really weird because when I first started doing the morning show, I could feel him in the car with me, mm-hmm. like he was riding with me. Mm. And it may sound crazy, but I was even talking to him a little bit. Mm. But that went away after a while, and I thought maybe he was with me for a little while, and then once he saw we were going, it was my work here done, whatever.
Yeah. I'm going to go to the light.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting, because the same thing happened when my father passed. Little indications that would happen. It was weird.
Isn't that strange?
It is.
Because that happened to me too when my father passed away.
Really?
Yeah. It was very odd. In fact, I remember one time he got inducted into the Country Broadcasters Hall of Fame. And somebody else at the station had been put into that Hall of Fame, and they had put up the program. Mm-hmm. As I walked in the studio, there's my dad's picture staring at me.
Wow.
Boy, that feels weird.
Mm-hmm.
Like he was with me.
It's funny when people pass, how, Phil's hit me pretty hard because, again, I felt like I was friends with him. And it was shocking because he was still very young.
Oh, yeah.
Right. I knew Campbell. And if Campbell's listening to this, buddy, I'd love to have you on. And I think we need to talk about doing a podcast together. That dude is talented.
Oh, he is.
Gosh.
And what a good looking kid, man. He could be a rock star.
He really could.
In fact, all those boys, all three of them.
I didn't meet the other two kids, only Campbell. Very talented. Really good skill at putting a show together. Because they kind of did like a history of everything type of show with the pod goats.
Yes.
He's got.
I would like to do one with him.
That's what I was wondering. It kind of crossed my mind that why don't you guys team up?
I think it would be great. I think it would. I think people would love it, to be quite honest.
Yeah. Because that's the thing is you put something like that together and it's got value. Again, even with what I do here with the business, part of what I'm kind of getting into is like, I'm actually developing somewhat of a network of all these different podcasts I produce. And hopefully that's a hive of sorts that attracts, interested advertisers, people that want to partner up for sponsorships and stuff like that. One of the podcasts I produce is the Try That in a Small Town podcast. And those guys are they're the four writers of the song and by Aldine.
I love that song, by the way.
And they all got together, decided to make it a podcast. I got involved around July or August, and just kind of, helped them develop the show a little bit, make it sound better, look better. It helped them with the formatics and, how the show is supposed to be produced and things that they can flesh out and start, topics and things of that nature. They instantly had equity. They had movement, forward momentum, a lot more so than most podcasts.
Right.
Because let's be honest, there's probably 4 or 5 million of them out there. Maybe 50 of them are good. That's why I say for radio people, guys, it is the Wild West. All right. There's opportunity that abounds with podcasting and digital media.
Yeah, that's what's interesting me more than anything right now is podcasting.
It is. It's radio, man.
Yeah, it is.
It's radio.
It is.
It's radio 2.0.
Yeah, you're exactly right.
And if you have a niche of what you can do, I mean, you're also a guitar player. You're a performer, right?
Yeah, play guitar all right.
All right.
Better singer than I'm a guitar player.
Eddie Van Halen kind of thing?
No.
No? I don't know.
Only when I play air guitar. Maybe a little more like Waylon Jennings or Steve Earle.
Did you do that kind of thing? Did you contribute to Phil's show or anything using your musical prowess?
We both did, actually. There was a point where he couldn't use any music because there was a war, I guess, between BMI and one of the stations. Mm-hmm. So at one point we just said, well, heck with it. We'll do our own bumper music. So I met him at his house. We got the guitars out.
Your own bumper music.
Yeah, we had our own bumper music.
So you couldn't use like rock music that was popular or anything like that?
Well, we were getting every now and then. It's gotten worse now because now we can't even use them at all because they're now using podcasting.
Right.
And so, yeah, they've totally done away with all the music, copyrighted music.
Can they use even like production music?
Oh, you can use production music as long as it's not copyrighted where they're going to come after you.
You can't use Guns N' Roses or anything like that, or because you used to be able to.
Oh, yeah, because in fact, on Phil's show, we used to use Van Halen a lot, and people just thought it was because I was a fan of the band.
Yeah.
But really, the reason we played so much Van Halen was when we first started, we got calls from Fort Campbell all the time, from the guys up there. And I got to love those guys because they were just, number one, I've always loved the military. Mm-hmm. I love those guys. And they would always call up and, hey, Johnny B, play some Halen. Play some more Halen. All right, guys, for you, I will.
Right.
So that was fun.
Yeah. Well, they were a great band.
Oh, yeah, they were.
So you get into producing your own bumper music. I mean, that's you don't hear about that. That's not something that's done.
No.
Yeah. That's crazy.
That was pretty fun. In fact, that was a great afternoon. In fact, that's the most fun I think I've had with Phil, besides being at a Foreigner concert with him. Well, because we didn't go out much together. I mean, we worked together, but we didn't socialize a lot.
Right.
But I loved making music with him. That was a great afternoon. Well, it was fun.
He would do his own parody songs.
Right. Very talented guy. Mm-hmm. In fact, he was kind of like Prince. He would just do all that himself.
Really?
Yeah.
That's funny. I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, he wouldn't. I never worked with him on. I did get mad at him one time though because I helped him write. What was the George Jones? Oh gosh, I can't remember the song, but it was to Don't Rock the Jukebox.
Okay.
Oh, Don't Wreck the Lexus. That's what it was. And I helped him write it. And he got in a lot of trouble for it, and it made the paper.
Oh, wow.
But he didn't talk about me helping him write it. And I, a little ego here, I got, hey, man, give me some credit. So
oh, yeah. You gotta get credit where credit's due, right?
That's right, man.
Now, I guess he came to prominence, too, during the tax revolt.
Yes.
Back in, was it 99?
Yeah, around 99, 2000, yeah. Boy, that was another great.
I was going to say.
Man, that was unbelievable. Mm-hmm. Just to see that many people. And that's when you saw America really working. I mean, that's when you saw voters.
That's when you saw radio working.
And radio work. Yeah. And it wasn't just us. The rock station got involved with us, Big Wally Londo.
Yeah.
He's the one I think that came up with. I think he may have come up with the horn honking.
Really?
Yeah.
Hmm.
I don't remember who exactly it was, but Wally came up with something that everybody was doing there.
I remember reading about that in Connecticut in the trades, R&R, I believe it was at the time. So they'd put that magazine out, and you'd look at all the different charts and what song got how many spins or how many ads and things of that nature. And I think they had a talk radio section, and I remember reading an article about that.
It was unbelievable. All the stations that got involved, and we didn't care. We were unified, and the big thing was we wanted for the people to have a voice.
Yeah.
If the people want a state income tax, so be it.
Yeah.
But to sneak one in under the radar, that rubbed everybody the wrong way.
Right. And he was right there at the forefront of it.
Well, and that's why we've got all this growth now around us. We wouldn't have this now if we had passed a state income tax.
So what you're telling me is...
You're going to turn this, aren't you?
Do we need to do that now? Getting back to, I asked you earlier, what's the fix? How do we, whatever is left of, it's a very faint heartbeat right now for radio. Dare I say it's circling the drain, okay? With the brain drain and the talent drain that has happened over the past 15 years. Mm-hmm. If everything goes to crap, radio is truly the one medium that people are going to look towards to depend on. Right. Unless you have an antenna sticking out of your roof that you can pick up, television waves, okay?
Right.
And your TV still works. You still have to plug it into a wall. Battery-operated radios are going to be, or even crank-operated radios are going to be where you get your information from.
Right.
But it's going to be tough when there's nobody there to give the frickin' information.
Exactly.
That's kind of a scary thought.
It is scary, and we're entering waters where I just don't know if anybody really has a great answer.
Yeah,
I just don't know.
No.
So people ask me what the future of radio is. Man, I couldn't tell you. I don't know. I do know that podcasting seems to be.
It is, but that if you have a tremendous event that is foisted upon the country, you can't listen to a podcast.
No, that's not going to help you out.
Yeah,
you need. That's why with so many people even saying, get AM radios out of cars. I don't know, man. I mean, I understand a lot of people don't listen to AM radio anymore, but it's almost, I think it's needed in some cases.
Maybe it's going to be shortwave.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, I don't know. I couldn't tell you what's going to happen.
Right. If you had to leave a message for those in control of radio, what would you tell them?
I would tell them to plan ahead. Don't waste money. Don't waste money on foolish station. I've seen money wasted at so many radio stations that the money could have been used for something better.
Right. On operational kind of things or
assets, I mean, like, to make sure your equipment's working, to make sure that, or even the people that work for you, that you can, give them raises,
right?
That type of thing, rather than spending money on foolish. I've seen radio companies just spend money on the most foolish things. I saw one spend money to build an NBA court.
Oh gosh!
For their talent.
Mm-hmm. So, for the talent?
Yeah, so they can play basketball. You know how many times they played basketball on it?
What? Maybe one time
once for a photo op.
Okay, interesting.
So that's
guys, buy a ping pong table next time. For crying out loud!
But yeah, that's the big thing. Just just use common sense.
Yeah. Well,
if I had to give them any kind of advice, use common sense with the money. Don't get crazy.
I would say for those of you who are in radio, either management, sales, programming, production, learn to embrace the sales aspect of it a little bit more. The idea that I floated earlier for you on-air talent to maybe flip the conversation more towards a revenue conversation as opposed to ratings. Try it that way. Go to your managers and say, what if I were paid on a spot set? Okay. Start with the most exposed spot set in terms of audience size, and of course, which you have to calibrate with ratings, or at least go to your sales department and say, hey, which one of the spot sets has the most gross revenue? And see what they say. I say, okay, I want that spot. That's going to be my pay. Start there. And now understand and start learning how to sell, either working with your department, watching videos on YouTube. There's a plethora of videos on YouTube you can watch that give you the understanding, the fundamentals of selling, and assist your sales department. Come alongside them, because in any given radio station, I don't know if it was with you guys, but the two radio stations I came up in Vegas and in Danbury, there was a chasm between sales and programming. And sales typically ruled the roost, because if anybody had egos in the building, it was the damn salespeople.
Oh, yes.
As I say, damn salespeople. But I was also the production director, and we got, crapped on all the time because nobody adhered to policy. But anyway, we would go out there. I would have a different attitude if I had to do it again. I would align myself with the sales department.
Yes.
You need me to go with you? Let's go pitch a client. Let's go close them. Tell me, give me the deets. Where are they? How are they on the fence? What are their objections? Things of that nature. And guys, just, it behooves you to learn how to sell.
In fact, I've always thought it'd be a great idea for talent to be able to sell as well.
Yeah.
I always wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And was always turned down. I never understood that.
Well, maybe you go back and maybe you just become an AE.
Maybe that's.
Honestly, that's not a bad idea. I mean, you could probably go back to the station and say, "What if I'm just like an advocate?"
There you
for
go.
The radio station and help you guys, your salespeople, and just give me a piece of the commission.
Well, that's the whole thing. I still believe in the station. I still love the station, and I love the people there. And a thing about talk radio, it works.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm telling you, it works.
It does. It's what is known today as influencer marketing started with endorsements from radio people.
Exactly.
That's where it came from. That's a form of an influencer marketing, as we now know it, was local celebrity, if you will, endorsements from radio people.
Well, and WTN is a very unique station. I've never worked at a radio station like that before, or never will again.
Yeah.
But it has a very unique audience.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like your family.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they love you and you love them. I mean, it is the most unique situation I've ever been in. And I'm very thankful I got to do it.
Yeah.
Because I love the WTN audience is one of the best that I ever had in my entire career in radio.
I think WTN was definitely one of the ideological stations to be looked at for other talk stations.
Yes.
You guys did a real solid job over there.
Thank you.
But, that's, as we talk about this, I always talk about conversation begets creativity. Here we are. We've talked about a little bit over an hour. And I think I honestly, my spidey senses are going off right now on this idea of maybe you going back and saying, hey, what if I were to fill this role? What do you think of that? And I'm the guy that goes out with your salespeople and acts as like a programming liaison to help them understand how things work. When a talent can't go with the salespeople, still see me as talent. I'm just more of a consultative liaison to help the salesperson sell the product.
Exactly.
And even upsell them.
There you go.
You know what I mean?
Well, because number one,
you could do that.
I'm a known,
right.
I'm a known entity.
You are.
And there's kind of a brand to it. So,
right. Or, you start your own podcast and start the poaching.
Start poaching, Johnny.
Let the poaching begin.
Start poaching, Johnny.
Well, it is Friday, Johnny, I guess, rip off the idea who is dancing in the booth.
I think it'd be Joe Biden today.
No, man, that's so timely, too.
I'm going to show a dance right out of here. By the way, Jim, where am I going? Your name's Jim, right?
Sure, Joe. Oh, Joe, what did you do?
Oh, Joe.
Joe, what's that smell, Joe? Oh, God. Joe, somebody get him to the bathroom, for crying out loud.
Whatever you do, Joe, don't do it on stage, buddy.
It's coming out your leg.
And I don't know if it really happened, but by gosh, it looked like it.
It really did, didn't it? Oh, my goodness. And it's funny because by the time this thing actually releases, it'll be a week after, God willing, the inauguration.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, so about a week from now, this will be airing. So, yes, we did record this on a Friday. We're in memory of Phil Valentine.
Yes.
We did that was an honor, man. Thank you for doing that with me.
Oh, man, it was my pleasure.
You were on it.
Oh, thanks, brother. Well, I miss it. I really do.
I just kind of came into I'm like, oh, let's do that.
Yeah. Friday dancing in the booth.
Yeah, buddy. So I'm going to say, where can people find and follow you? I don't know if you have a website or anything like that.
I don't have a website, but you can follow me on Twitter. It's Bozeman World. Nice. You can also catch me on the Fake Book. Mm-hmm. And it's just under John E. Bozeman, Bozeman.
Dude, what do you think about those revelations with Zucks coming out on Rogan's podcast?
Oh, man.
What is up with that?
I don't know.
Wow.
It's just everything we thought was, everybody thought everybody that believed all of the conspiracy theories, we used to think they were crazy.
I know. Now
you guys may have been onto something.
They were vindicated.
Yeah, they were vindicated.
I mean, Alex Jones, man.
Yeah. Sorry, Alex.
Gosh. I used to listen to him back in the day, and I was like, once he started talking about the Sandy Hook stuff, I was like, okay, dude.
That was me too.
That was, you lost me.
Yeah, you went a little too far on that one.
And I think he had a little bit of remorse for that.
I think he did too.
Yeah.
I think he knew he went too far.
And it was like almost shock radio. It was truly shock radio at that point. But man, he's been spot on with other stuff.
Oh, has he ever? Yes. And so is everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah, very true. Well, awesome, man. I won't keep you much longer on this wonderful, beautiful, very unseasonably warm Friday afternoon.
I know, and the bottom's going to fall out.
Oh, yeah. Is it? Tomorrow?
I think tomorrow, yes. I think tomorrow night's supposed to be in the 9.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
All right, okay.
It's Tennessee for you.
Oh, yeah. What they call second winter, I think.
Yeah.
So there you go. All the details will be in the description as normal. And I thank you for listening. If you've gotten this far, if you want to tell a friend about us, go to MMTBP.com. Send them there. You'll get all the different details, the links, ways to listen and watch, as well as a link there if you want to be on the show. Fill it out, and we'll take a look at it. And if it works, we'll reach out. It's all right there at MMTBP.com. Mr. Bozeman, it's been a pleasure, pal.
Hang with me, Jim. I appreciate it.
Whoa!